The laundry girl refused to press his black coat, then showed the Mafia Boss the silver needle. Act 1, the needle in the collar. Clara Voss turned off the steam press 3 minutes before Dante Bellandi's black coat was supposed to leave the hotel garment room. The machine died with a long metal sigh. Steam curled around the hanging coat, then thinned into the bright laundry lights. Every sound in the basement changed after that. The dryers kept rolling. The sleeve boards kept humming. The ceiling pipes clicked with old heat. But the room knew a rule had been broken, because no one stopped a press on a Bellandi garment without permission. Clara had not asked for permission. She stood in front of the black coat with one hand on the power switch and the other buried carefully inside the collar seam. The coat was beautiful. That was the first problem. Beautiful garments made people stupid. They looked at the wool, the cut, the expensive lining, the way the shoulders held their shape even without a body inside them, and they forgot that clothing could be used like any other room. A place to hide a message. A place to leave a mark. A place to make a powerful man walk into public humiliation wearing the proof. Turn it back on, Victor Klein snapped. Clara did not move. Victor was the Bellandi Hotel's evening wardrobe manager, a narrow man with polished shoes, nervous hands, and the special courage that came from yelling only at people who could be fired. He stood beside the delivery rack with Dante Bellandi's event schedule folded in one fist. Clara, he said. I am not asking. I know. Then why is the press off? Because I found something. You found lint. You always find lint. That is the work. Remove it, press the coat, and send it upstairs. Clara Voss was 34, Caucasian, ash-brown hair pinned in a tight knot under a gray cloth band, wearing a white shirt under a charcoal garment care apron. The apron had burn marks from old irons, a tape measure tucked through one loop, and 3 needles threaded through a felt pad near her waist. Her face was tired because the hotel had hosted 2 galas in 3 days, but her eyes were awake. Her hands were very steady. They had to be. A garment room punished nervous hands. Steam burned. Blade slipped. Silk tore if you breathed too hard at the wrong angle. Clara had learned long ago that panic cost more than time. It is not lint, she said. Victor came closer. Do not play expert with me. I am the expert in this room. The girl at the folding table, Nina, stopped pairing cufflinks with garment bags. Victor's face flushed. You are a laundry girl. Tonight I am the only person between that coat and the ballroom. He stared at her as if she had spoken a foreign language. Maybe she had. People like Victor thought the basement was a tunnel through which clean things traveled upward. They did not understand that the basement was where a hotel's truth collected: stains, torn hems, perfume that did not match the room assignment, lipstick on collars that belonged to men traveling alone, cigarette ash hidden in pockets by guests who swore they never smoked. Clara knew clothing. Clothing confessed before people did. Step aside, Victor said. No. Nina looked at the service door. 2 men in black suits entered before Victor could answer. Their eyes moved over the room with the calm speed of men trained to find corners, exits, and hands. They were not hotel security. Hotel security wore radios and worry. These men wore silence. Behind them came Dante Bellandi. The basement seemed to get smaller. Dante was 43, Italian-American, clean-shaven, dark-haired, and dressed in a black 3-piece suit with a white shirt open at the throat. He had not yet put on the coat. Without it, he still looked like the reason the coat existed. Tall, controlled, sharp enough that the laundry lights turned his cheekbones into hard lines. A heavy signet ring sat on his right hand. His black leather gloves were folded in his left. No one would have mistaken him for an ordinary hotel owner. Owners complained about delays. Dante Bellandi made delays feel like charges. Mr. Bellandi, Victor said quickly. I apologize. There is a minor staff issue. The coat will be ready in 2 minutes. Dante looked past him to Clara. Then to the silent press. Then to the black coat hanging between them. Why is my coat not ready? His voice was quiet, and that was worse than anger. Anger gave people something to dodge. Quiet made them stand still and be counted. Victor started. She turned off the press without authorization. I asked her. Clara lifted her chin. No, you did not. The room stopped. Victor turned the color of old linen. One of Dante's men shifted a hand toward his jacket, not fast, not dramatic, just enough to show he had noticed insult. Clara looked at him. Hands where the steam can see them. The bodyguard stared. Dante's gaze sharpened. Nina inhaled so hard Clara heard it over the dryers. Excuse me, the bodyguard said. This is a garment room, Clara said. If you put your hand inside your jacket while I am handling a needle, I cannot tell whether you are reaching for a phone, a weapon, or a way to make this my fault. Clara, Victor hissed. Dante lifted one finger. The bodyguard's hand lowered. Clara returned her attention to the collar. Your coat cannot leave this room, she said. Dante walked closer. Not too close. Close enough that Clara could smell cold air on him from the service elevator and the faint cedar oil used in private garment storage. He looked at the coat as if it were an employee who had betrayed him. Explain. I need tweezers. Victor barked a laugh. You need employment elsewhere. Dante did not look away from Clara. Give her tweezers. Nina grabbed the fine silver tweezers from the repair tray and brought them over. Her fingers shook. Clara took them gently. Thank you. She turned the collar toward the light. The black wool was dense and elegant, stitched by hand along the inner roll. A thin ridge ran under the left collar point, just where the fabric folded near the throat. Not a lump. Not enough for anyone hurrying to notice. But Clara did not hurry with expensive coats. Hurrying was how people with clean hands made people with working hands take the blame. She slid the tweezers into the seam and lifted. Nothing happened. Victor exhaled loudly. Clara changed the angle by a hair and lifted again. This time a thin silver point emerged from the black wool. Nina whispered, "Oh." Clara drew the object free. It was not a sewing needle from the hotel kit. It was finer, brighter, almost surgical in its precision, no longer than the first joint of Clara's thumb. A tiny silver needle, sharpened at both ends, flattened slightly at the middle so it could be pressed into a seam without rolling out. She held it in the tweezers under the laundry lights. Everyone saw it. Even Victor stopped breathing. Dante's face did not change, but something in his eyes went colder. That was in my collar, he said. Yes. Would it have touched me? No. That answer surprised him. Clara saw it. Good. Surprise made powerful men listen for half a second longer than pride allowed. Then what is it? Dante asked. A trigger. Victor swallowed. That is absurd. No, Clara said. It is smart. Not elegant, but smart. Dante looked at the needle. A trigger for what? Clara set the silver needle on a square of white pressing cloth and turned the coat so the lining faced them. If you wore this coat tonight and fastened the inner collar hook, the pressure would push this needle through two hidden threads. Not to hurt you. To cut them. She parted the black lining with her fingertips. Nina leaned closer, then stopped herself. Clara nodded. You can look. The girl stepped beside her. Clara pointed to the inner collar. See the two replacement threads? They are too pale. Nina squinted. They are black. Almost black. Not the same black. Hotel thread reflects blue. This reflects green. Dante's gaze moved to Nina, then back to Clara. And if the threads break? Clara slid one fingernail under the collar facing and lifted gently. A hidden fold opened. Inside was a strip of white fabric no wider than 2 fingers, covered in dark embroidery. Victor made a sound like a man stepping off a stair that was not there. Clara did not pull the strip all the way out. She did not need to. The first words were enough. Not his father's son. Silence dropped so hard the dryers seemed rude for continuing. Dante did not move. That frightened Clara more than if he had. The Bellandi memorial dinner upstairs was not just another gala. Nina had whispered about it all week while pinning trouser cuffs and sorting ties. It marked 20 years since Dante's father had died and Dante had taken over whatever people politely called the Bellandi family interests. There would be cameras. Donors. Rival families pretending to be old friends. His black coat would be photographed the moment he entered the ballroom. If the collar split open at the right moment, that hidden strip would show. Not a wound. A sentence. Public shame sewn into wool. Who touched this coat? Dante asked. Victor recovered enough to speak. Sir, I will investigate immediately. I did not ask what you will do. Victor's mouth closed. Dante looked at Clara. Who touched this coat? Clara felt the weight of the room shift toward her. It would be easy now to give him a name she hated. Victor's, perhaps. He had earned suspicion through incompetence and cruelty. But easy answers were how poor people ended up carrying rich people's messes. I can tell you who did not, she said. Dante's eyes narrowed. That is not what I asked. It is where the truth starts. One bodyguard muttered, Sir. Dante held up a hand without looking away from her. Continue. Clara pointed to the coat rack. Nina did the inventory tag. She never opened the collar because collar checks are not part of trainee handling. Mrs. Alvarez from housekeeping signed the delivery log but did not enter the garment room. I steamed the body and sleeves, then felt weight in the collar and stopped. Mr. Klein rushed the rack twice but did not touch the collar. Whoever placed the needle had privacy, thread knowledge, and access before the coat came downstairs. Victor said, "You cannot know that. The collar was hand-basted closed before final press. That is not a rush job. Someone sat with this coat." Dante looked at the silver needle on the white cloth. Then at the hidden strip. Then at Clara. "No one leaves this room," he said. Clara turned to him sharply. "That is not a plan." The air changed. Men like Dante Bellandi were used to being obeyed in complete sentences. Clara gave him 5 words and a refusal. "No," he asked. "No. What would you call it?" "Fear with doors." Nina's face went pale. Victor looked as if he had forgotten how to stand. Dante stared at Clara for one long moment. His expression was unreadable, but Clara saw the small movement in his jaw. He wanted to clear the room. He wanted names, pressure, consequences. He wanted to do what men like him did when insult touched family. She held the tweezers steady. "If you close the doors before you understand the coat," she said, "everyone in this basement becomes useful to whoever did it." Dante's eyes dropped to the tweezers. Then to her hands. Not shaking. He saw that. "What do you want?" he asked. "Light, time, and everyone to keep their hands where I can see them." Victor whispered, "This is insane." Dante said, "Give her light." Act 2, the coat that remembered. They moved the black coat to the inspection table under 4 white lamps. Clara did not allow Dante's men to carry it. That caused another silence. "No," she said when the taller bodyguard reached for the hanger. He looked at Dante. "Why?" Dante asked. "Because he lifts from the shoulder. The false threads are in the collar. If he handles it like enforcement instead of cloth, he may tear the evidence." The bodyguard's face hardened. "I know how to carry a coat." "You know how to carry a threat," Clara said. "That is not the same thing." Nina made a tiny choking sound and stared at the floor. Dante looked at the bodyguard. "Step back." "Sir." "Step back." The man obeyed. Clara lifted the coat from beneath the hanger with one hand supporting the collar roll, the other cupping the lower body so the lining did not shift. She laid it flat, opened the front, and arranged the hem so nothing pulled. Dante watched every movement. Most men watched women when they wanted something from them. Dante watched the work. That was rarer, and Clara did not trust herself to like it. "You said the needle was a trigger," he said. "Yes. And not meant to hurt me. Not physically." His mouth tightened at the distinction. Clara used the tweezers to lift the silver needle again. "See the flattened middle?" It was pressed into the collar seam, not dropped. A normal sewing needle would rotate. This stayed in place. When the hook closed, pressure would drive both points outward and cut the threads. Nina leaned forward. "Like a tiny blade." "Like a lazy blade," Clara said. "It uses your movement to finish someone else's work." Dante's gaze sharpened at that. Clara pretended not to notice. "Who prepared the coat before it came down?" he asked. Victor cleared his throat. "Private wardrobe sent it from the penthouse suite at 4. It arrived in sealed garment cover." Nina logged it. Clara steamed the coat. "Who signed the seal?" Victor looked at the clipboard in his hand. "Mr. Enzo Vale." Dante's expression did not change, but the room felt colder. "Enzo is my cousin." Victor's eyes flicked down. "Yes, sir." Nina whispered, "Maybe someone forged it." Victor rounded on her. "Did anyone ask you?" Clara stepped between them without thinking. Not dramatically. Just enough that Victor would have to look past her to continue frightening the girl. Dante saw. "Of course he did." "Nina is allowed to speak," he said. Victor's lips pressed thin. Clara kept her focus on the coat. "The seal matters less than the thread." Dante looked at her. "Why?" "A seal can be signed by anyone with a pen and enough confidence. Thread is harder to lie with." "Explain." She pulled 2 thread cards from her apron pocket. One was Hotel Black. The other was Private Wardrobe Black, which she kept because Private Wardrobe constantly sent down emergency repairs and then accused the basement of using mismatched supplies. She placed both under the lamp. Hotel Black reflects blue under white light. Private Wardrobe Black reflects green. The false threads in this collar reflect green. Nina nodded. "Like you said." "So the hidden strip was sewn upstairs," Clara said. Victor exhaled with relief too quickly. "Then this is not our department's fault." Clara looked at him. "You were ready to send it out." His relief died. Dante's eyes moved to Victor. "He was." Victor swallowed. "The coat was sealed. We had a schedule." "Cloth does not care about your schedule," Clara said. There it was again. Dante almost smiled. Clara did not know what to do with that. She turned back to the coat before warmth could become visible on her face. There is another problem, she said. Dante's attention returned instantly. What? The hidden strip is not new. It looks new. The embroidery is new. The fabric is old. She lifted the edge of the white strip with the tweezers and pointed to a faint yellowing along the fold. This was cut from an old garment lining. Silk blend. Hand-pressed. Stored for years, then embroidered recently. Dante's stillness changed again. My father's clothes are kept in storage. Victor took a step back. Nina looked frightened. Clara wished Dante had not said that in front of everyone, because grief spoken by dangerous men tended to become weather. But he had said it, and now the basement had to breathe through it. Do not decide yet, she said. His eyes cut to hers. I did not speak. Your face did. Another silence. Then, softly, Dante asked, what did it say? Clara should not have answered. She did anyway. That you already chose a target. The nearest bodyguard shifted. Careful. Dante did not look at him. She is. Clara's fingers paused on the white strip. She had been called reckless, stubborn, insolent, difficult, cold, unfeminine, and too particular by men who ruined cuffs and blamed irons. Careful was a word she usually had to award herself. Hearing it from Dante Bellandi unsettled her. The strip may have come from your father's storage, she said, or someone wants you to think that. Either way, the coat is not ready for your body or your anger. Dante looked at the coat for a long time. How long do you need? Victor made a strangled sound. Sir, the memorial dinner begins in 40 minutes. I asked her. Clara calculated. 20 minutes for evidence. 10 to make the coat wearable. 5 to decide whether the message stays hidden or becomes useful. Dante's gaze lifted. Useful. If someone wanted you humiliated in public, they expect you to avoid the room or enter angry. There may be value in making them believe the coat worked. Victor whispered, this is beyond laundry. Clara said, most things are, if you wait long enough. Dante looked at her then, really looked, as if the lights had changed over her instead of the coat. She felt the attention land and did not step back. You have done this before, he said. Fixed coats? Read a room by what it leaves on fabric. Every day. No, he said. Not every day like this. Clara's mouth tightened. There were things in her past she did not bring to basement shifts. A father whose tailor's shop had been ruined by a false accusation. A mother who taught her to smell steam before trusting a press. A wedding dress she had once repaired for a woman who cried because her fiancé had hidden a note in the hem and not the loving kind. Fabric carried people at their worst. People think clothes are decoration, she said. They are not. They are witnesses. Dante was quiet for half a breath. Then let this one testify. Act 3, silver under white light. Clara built the inspection line like a courtroom no one had planned to respect. She placed the silver needle on white cloth. The hidden strip beside it. The 2 thread cards under the lamp. The black coat open on the table like an animal that had finally stopped pretending to be asleep. Nina wrote down times. Not because anyone asked her. Because Clara had given her a pencil and said, hands are steadier when they have a job. Dante stood at the end of the table, close enough to see, far enough not to crowd. His men stood behind him, unhappy but disciplined. Victor hovered near the door, calculating how much blame could still be folded away from himself. The coat arrived at 4, Clara said. Nina read from the log. 4:07. Logged by Nina. Yes. Seal signed by Enzo Vale. Dante said nothing. Clara continued, I opened the garment cover at 7:10. I steamed the sleeves, lower body, and back. At 7:22 I felt the collar ridge and stopped the press. And removed the needle at 7:26, Nina said. Clara nodded once. Good. Nina looked proud for half a second, then hit it badly. Dante saw that too. The man missed very little once he chose to look. You said the needle was flattened, he said. Yes. Can you prove it was placed intentionally? Yes. Clara took a normal hotel sewing needle from her apron pad and laid it beside the silver one. This rolls. She tilted the white cloth. The normal needle moved immediately. The silver needle stayed still until the angle became steep. Flattened middle. It was made to stay under pressure. Could it be from garment manufacturing? No. A manufacturer would not hide it under a hand-basted collar with a message strip. The bodyguard closest to Dante said, could the girl have planted it? He meant Nina. Nina went white. Clara's hand flattened on the table. No. The bodyguard looked at her. You answer quickly. Because that answer is easy. Why? She is right-handed. So? Clara turned the coat collar toward him. The needle was pressed into the left collar from the inside seam outward. A right-handed person working from the front would leave the flattened middle angled toward the lower edge. This one angles up. The bodyguard blinked. A left-handed person, Dante said. Or a right-handed person standing behind the coat while it hung on a form. Dante's gaze moved to Victor. Who is left-handed upstairs? Victor looked miserable. Mr. Enzo is. Clara did not look at Dante. She looked at the coat. Evidence first. Men later. Dante's voice remained controlled. Who else? Private valet Marco. One wardrobe assistant. A tailor called in yesterday. Names. Victor fumbled for his phone. Clara said, before you summon them, decide what you want them to believe. Dante's eyes returned to her. You are giving me strategy now? No. I am preventing you from tearing the seam before the pattern shows. That almost smile again. Smaller this time, and gone quickly. And what should they believe, he asked. That the coat is ready. Victor stared. Absolutely not. Clara said, the coat can be made safe in 10 minutes. Dante's voice lowered. Safe enough to wear. Safe enough to carry the lie back to whoever stitched it. Nina whispered, how? Clara pointed to the hidden strip. I remove the needle, secure the broken threads, and keep the message folded. From the outside, the coat looks unchanged. If the person who did this watches you enter, they will expect the collar to open. When it does not, they will look for why. Dante's eyes sharpened. And looking will expose them. If you are quiet enough to see it. The room did not miss the condition. Quiet enough. Dante Bellandi, who made other people quiet for a living, was being asked to become it himself. What if I prefer to bring every person upstairs down here and ask with my own methods, he said. Clara held up the silver needle. Then whoever knows the answer will give you a name that fits your anger. And if I wait? You may get a truth that does not flatter you. The words were too direct. She knew that as soon as she said them. Victor looked toward the door as if hoping distance might save him from witnessing this. Dante's bodyguards went still. Dante himself looked at Clara for a long moment, and the room seemed to lean away from what might happen next. Does truth usually flatter me? He asked. Clara's pulse struck once, hard. He was not offended. He was curious. That was worse. In my experience, she said carefully, truth rarely flatters anyone who pays other people to smooth fabric before they enter a room. Nina stared at the floor again, but Clara could see her shoulders shaking with suppressed laughter. Dante saw it too. This time he did smile. Not kindly enough to make anyone comfortable. But enough to make Clara's stomach do something profoundly inconvenient. Repair it, he said. Victor stepped forward. Sir, if I may. You may not. The schedule is now hers. Clara did not let herself react. Mostly. Nina, she said. Steam off. Needle tray. Hotel black thread. Not private wardrobe. Nina moved at once. Mr. Klein, Clara said. Victor stiffened. What? Write down every person who touched the garment cover before 4:07. I do not take orders from you. Dante said, tonight you do. Victor took the clipboard. Clara worked. She removed the remaining false thread with a seam ripper so fine it looked like a silver claw. She slid a strip of protective muslin behind the hidden fabric, not to hide it forever, but to stop it from shifting. She replaced 2 collar threads with hotel black, matching the original tension. The repair had to hold without looking repaired. That was the art. Not perfection. Plausible continuity. Dante watched. He did not speak for 8 full minutes. Clara was aware of him anyway. A man like him had weight even in silence. But his silence did not press on her the way Victor's did. Victor's silence was waiting to criticize. Dante's was trying to understand. You hate this coat, he said finally. Clara did not look up. I respect it. That is not what I said. It is the more useful version. And the true one? She trimmed a thread. It is too beautiful. That offends you? No. Beauty without usefulness offends me. This coat is useful. That makes the beauty more dangerous. Dante's hand rested near the edge of the table, not touching the wool. She noticed because he could have touched it. He did not. My father wore black coats, he said. The room softened around the words, though no one moved. Clara tied off the thread. Did he choose them? My mother did. Then they fit. Dante went quiet. Clara realized what she had said after the words had already left her. She felt heat rise under her collar. I mean, she said, people dress differently when someone who knows them chooses the garment. Less armor. More person. Dante looked at the coat. This one is armor. Yes. Can armor be repaired? Clara slid the needle through the seam one last time and pulled the thread smooth. Only if the person wearing it admits it was damaged. Act 4, teach me the coat. Dante Bellandi had built his life around acting before others had time to organize harm. He did not wait for insults to mature. He did not give enemies the luxury of second attempts. He did not ask a room what it meant after it had already shown him what it wanted. His father had died after trusting one wrong handshake, one wrong invitation, one wrong coat handed to him by a smiling cousin. That was the family story, at least. Dante had repeated it for 20 years. Now a laundry girl stood under basement lights and told him the coat might be telling a more complicated truth. He disliked complication. He liked Clara Voss's hands. That was inconvenient. They were not soft hands. There was a faint burn mark near her thumb, a small cut healed white along one knuckle, and the dry roughness that came from soap, steam, starch, and work. But they were precise. Every movement had a reason. She touched the coat with more respect than some men touched prayer books. When she looked at fabric, she saw motive. When she looked at him, she saw danger and did not worship it. That interested him more than it should. You said I should wait, he said. Clara checked the collar hook. I said you should understand before punishing. You think those are different. I know they are. And if the person who did this is standing upstairs right now? Then they are waiting for your temper. He felt the words strike. Not because they were clever. Because they were correct. You think I am predictable. In some rooms. This one? She looked around the garment room, steam pipes, folding tables, repair carts, Nina writing with fierce concentration, Victor pretending not to sweat. You are learning. No one had spoken to him like that in years. Not since his mother. Dante looked at the repaired collar. Can I wear it? Yes. Should I? Clara's fingers paused. That was the first question he had asked that did not demand evidence. It asked judgment. Hers. She seemed to feel the difference. Only if you can enter the ballroom without touching the collar, she said. Why? The person who planted the needle will watch your hand. If you check the collar, they will know you know. And if I do not check? They will watch the collar instead. That is when someone else can watch them. You. No. She resumed smoothing the seam. I am not a spy. What are you? Laundry. The answer came too fast. Dante did not accept it. What are you? He asked again. Clara glanced up then, irritated. The woman who found your silver needle. Better. Do not make that sound like promotion. It is recognition. Recognition becomes ownership quickly in hotels. The words were sharp, but not theatrical. He had heard similar words from Elena Ward in another ballroom not long ago, from women who had learned to protect the borders of themselves before powerful men arrived with gratitude shaped like chains. Dante respected borders. He did not always like them. He respected them anyway when they were drawn this cleanly. Then teach me how not to make it ownership, he said. Clara stilled. The basement seemed to lose its machine noise for a moment. He had not meant the sentence to sound as raw as it did. Too late. She looked at him, really looked, and the irritation in her face shifted into something more careful. Not softness. Not trust. Attention. Start with the coat, she said. All right. You want to know who touched it last. Yes. Then do not ask who hates you most. Ask who knew you would wear your father's shape tonight. Dante's chest tightened. Clara pointed to the collar. This insult is not random. It is tailored. Someone knew what line would make cameras matter. Someone knew the coat was symbolic. Someone knew you would choose black wool, high collar, no scarf, old Bellandi cut. My family. Or someone who dresses your family. Victor spoke too quickly. Private wardrobe. Clara looked at him. Maybe. Dante heard the maybe. What did you see? She lifted the garment cover from the rack. This came from private wardrobe, but the chalk inside the cover is basement chalk. Victor's face went flat. Clara turned the inner flap of the cover toward the light. A faint white crescent marked the black fabric. We use square tailor's chalk downstairs, she said. Private wardrobe uses pencils. This mark came from here. Victor said, many people use this room. Yes. That proves nothing. It proves the garment cover was opened downstairs before I received it. Dante turned slowly toward Victor. The manager held up both hands. I did not touch that coat. Clara said, I believe you. Victor blinked. So did Dante. You do? Dante asked. Yes. He is too careless to make a repair that clean. Nina made a tiny sound and covered it with a cough. Victor looked offended enough to forget fear for half a second. Clara lifted the garment cover higher. But he may know who had time in here. Dante stepped closer to Victor. Clara said, no. There it was again. That single word. In his house, men had died after less. In this basement, from this woman, it stopped him. Dante looked back. No. If you corner him now, he gives you the name he thinks will save him. And you prefer? Give him a job. Victor said, I beg your pardon? Clara ignored him. Mr. Klein, pull the steam log. The steam log? The machine records when the press heats past formal wool temperature. If someone opened the coat downstairs and worked on the collar, they may have used steam to flatten the seam after. Victor stared. Then he moved. Not because Clara had authority. Because Dante did not stop her from having it. Clara watched him go to the machine panel. Dante watched Clara. You keep giving frightened people jobs, he said. It keeps them from becoming useful to fear. And me? She met his eyes. I am still deciding what job to give you. The answer moved through him like heat under ice. He should have disliked that too. He did not. The steam log printed in a thin strip of paper. Victor tore it off and brought it over. Clara read it. Her face changed. Dante saw it before anyone else. What? The press heated past formal wool temperature at 5:13. Before you opened the garment cover. Yes. Who was here? Clara looked at Victor. Victor looked at the clipboard. His voice was suddenly small. Marco. Dante knew the name. Marco Lisi, private valet, loyal for 8 years, right hand to Dante's cousin Enzo when wardrobe traveled. Not family. Close enough to know family cloth. Close enough to know old stories. Close enough to be invisible. Bring him, Dante said. Clara laid a hand on the coat. He stopped before she spoke. Not here, she said. Why? Because this is where he expects fabric to protect him. Dante's eyes narrowed. Where, then? The service mirror outside the ballroom. If he looks at the collar first, you have your answer. And if he does not? Then we keep listening. Dante looked at the coat, at the silver needle, at Clara's hand resting flat against black wool. Teach me how to wear it, he said. Act 5, the ballroom test. Clara buttoned Dante Bellandi into the black coat with the entire garment room pretending not to watch. It should have been simple. It was not. There were tasks that became intimate because they required trust from one person and restraint from the other. Dressing a dangerous man in a coat someone had weaponized was one of them. Dante stood still. Completely still. Most men fidgeted when someone worked close to their throat. They cleared their voices, made jokes, watched themselves in mirrors, or turned the moment into performance. Dante did none of that. He let Clara lift the collar, settle the shoulders, check the repaired seam, and fasten the inner hook with 2 fingers. His pulse beat once beneath the skin near his jaw. Clara saw it. She wished she had not. Do not touch the collar upstairs, she said. You mentioned. I am mentioning again because men hear instructions differently when fabric is already on them. Nina turned away, shoulders shaking. Dante looked down at Clara. Do I? You are trying not to. That is not an answer. It is the polite version. His mouth almost moved. What is the impolite version? You are a powerful man wearing a coat that makes you feel like your father. Of course you want to touch the collar. The room went very quiet. Clara realized she had gone too far. Dante's eyes held hers, dark and unreadable. Then he said, correct. Victor dropped the clipboard. Nina bent quickly to retrieve it, grateful for a reason to look away. Clara took a breath through her nose and smoothed the left shoulder. Then do not. Because they will watch. Because you will be telling the coat you do not trust it. That landed differently. Dante's face changed by a fraction. Do you trust it? He asked. I trust my repair. That is not the same. It is better. He looked at her hands on the black wool. Do you trust me? Clara lifted her hands away. No. The truth should have made the room colder. It made it clearer. Dante nodded once. Good. She frowned. Good. Trust given too quickly is usually a debt someone plans to collect. Clara did not want to like that answer. She liked it anyway. Nina handed Victor the clipboard, then whispered, he looks normal. Clara checked the collar from 3 angles. The seam held. The hidden strip stayed folded. The silver needle sat sealed in a glassine envelope in her apron pocket, not because she wanted evidence near her body, but because she did not trust Victor not to misplace it accidentally on purpose. He looks expensive, Clara said. Normal is not in my department. Dante's eyes warmed. The service elevator took them upstairs. Not all of them. Dante, Clara, one bodyguard, and Victor, because Victor needed to see the consequences of nearly sending the coat out unchecked. Nina stayed below with instructions to keep the garment room locked and to call Mrs. Alvarez if anyone entered without permission. Mrs. Alvarez outranks Victor now? Dante asked as the elevator rose. In emergencies involving staff truth, yes. Victor looked wounded. Dante said, reasonable. The elevator opened on the back corridor behind the Bellandi ballroom. Music drifted through the walls, warm strings and low brass. Voices layered over one another, rich and careless. The memorial dinner was already moving toward the announcement portion. Clara could smell candle wax, expensive cologne, and hot food waiting under silver covers. She should not have been there. Laundry girls did not stand behind mafia bosses at memorial dinners. But the silver needle in her pocket said she belonged to the truth of the room, even if the room had never intended to see her. Dante paused before the service mirror. It was long, narrow, mounted on the wall so staff could check trays and uniforms before entering guest spaces. In it, Clara saw him in the black coat. The fit was perfect. The collar held. He looked like history had chosen him carefully and charged interest. He did not touch the collar. Clara let out a breath she had not known she was holding. Dante saw it in the mirror. Passed, he asked. For now. Hard grader. Expensive mistakes require strict grading. The bodyguard at his shoulder murmured, Marco approaching. Clara moved one step behind a service cart. Dante noticed. You do not need to hide. I am not hiding. I am changing what he thinks he sees. Which is? Laundry. Marco Lisi entered the corridor carrying a folded pocket square. He was lean, dark-haired, handsome in a nervous way, wearing the black suit of private staff allowed near power but never into it. His left hand held the pocket square. His right brushed the wall as he walked. Left-handed, Clara noted. He stopped when he saw Dante. Sir, Marco said. They are waiting for you. Are they? Marco smiled. The room always waits for you. Too smooth. Clara watched through the service mirror. Marco's eyes moved to Dante's face. Then the coat. Then the collar. There. A flicker so small most people would have called it nothing. Clara did not believe in nothing when fabric was involved. Marco's gaze dropped again to the repaired collar, searching for the tear that should have opened. Dante did not touch it. Good. He learned quickly when he chose to. New pocket square? Dante asked. Marco lifted it. Mr. Enzo sent it. He thought your father's gray would honor the evening. Victor shifted. Clara looked at the pocket square. Gray silk. Old fold lines. Family storage again. Dante turned slightly, not enough to reveal Clara fully, but enough to catch her reflection in the mirror. Her answer had to be small. She lowered her eyes to the pocket square, then to Marco's left hand, then back to the mirror. Dante understood. Give it to Clara, he said. Marco blinked. Sir? Ms. Voss is inspecting garments tonight. Clara stepped out from behind the cart. Marco's surprise lasted too long. Of course, he said. He handed her the pocket square. Their fingers did not touch because Clara did not let them. The silk was cool, too cool for something carried in a warm hand. It had been kept near a draft or metal surface. She unfolded it once. There was nothing inside. No message. No needle. No stem. That made it more suspicious. She lifted it toward the corridor light. The gray silk showed a faint pressed outline where something rectangular had been hidden inside and removed. Marco watched her too carefully. Lovely fabric, he said. Yes, Clara said. It remembers badly. Dante's head tilted slightly. Marco's smile thinned. I am not sure what that means. Most people are not. She turned the pocket square over and saw one pale thread caught in the hem. Green-black. Private wardrobe thread. She held it between two fingernails. Where is Mr. Enzo? Dante asked. At the front table, Marco said. Then we should not keep him waiting. Marco looked relieved. That was his mistake. Dante walked toward the ballroom. Clara walked behind him with the pocket square folded over her palm, the silver needle sealed in her apron, and the sudden certainty that this story had never been only about a coat. Act 6, not his father's son. The Bellandi ballroom had been designed to make money feel like tradition. Dark wood panels climbed the walls. Gold lights glowed from sconces shaped like old flames. Long tables faced the stage where Dante would speak about his father in front of family, donors, friendly enemies, and enemies wearing friendly expressions. Clara entered through the service side with a tray of clean napkins she did not need. That gave her a reason to be there. Women like her always needed a reason. Rich people could drift. Working women had to carry something. Dante entered through the main arch. The room shifted toward him. Every head turned. Every conversation softened. Some people smiled. Some straightened. Some watched the black coat with more interest than respect. Clara saw Enzo Vale at the front table immediately. He was Dante's cousin, though the resemblance was in posture more than face. Same dark hair, same Bellandi stillness borrowed but not owned. His smile widened when Dante entered. Then his eyes went to the collar. Clara saw the disappointment. There. Not shock. Disappointment. Dante crossed the room without touching the coat. Clara almost admired him for that alone. The collar must have felt like fire against his throat. Marco moved toward Enzo and leaned down to murmur something. Enzo's hand tightened around his wineglass. Clara set the napkin tray on a sideboard and moved closer to the service mirror behind the floral arrangement. From there, she could see Dante, Enzo, Marco, and the stage in fractured reflection. The memorial host approached the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dante Bellandi." Applause rose. Dante stepped onto the stage. The black coat moved perfectly. No tir. No heathenistrip. No public insult. For one dangerous moment, Clara thought perhaps that would be enough. The coat had been saved. The dinner could continue. The silver needle could become a sealed evidence packet, handled by men in private rooms with locked doors. Then Enzo stood. Not fully. Just enough to lift his glass. "Before you speak," Enzo called, smiling, "perhaps you should honor your father properly." The room laughed gently because they thought it was family warmth. Clara did not. Dante looked at him. "I intend to." Enzo touched his own collar. "Your coat seems stiff." Father's old cut was always unforgiving. There it was. A second attempt. If Dante touched the collar in front of everyone, Enzo would know the coat had been found. If Dante ignored it, Enzo might press further. The room watched the exchange, hungry for family intimacy. Dante's right hand lifted. Only an inch. Clara moved before fear could ask permission. She crossed from the sideboard to the stage steps with the napkin tray in both hands. Victor, standing near the service arch, whispered, "Clara, no." She did not stop. The room noticed her when she reached the stage. A laundry girl with a tray of napkins in the middle of a Bellandi memorial. Wrong class. Wrong moment. Exactly right. "Mr. Bellandi," she said clearly, "your collar does not need adjusting." The room froze. Enzo's smile vanished. Dante's hand stopped in the air. Then lowered. Slowly. He looked at Clara. Not angry. Not grateful in a way that would make her smaller. Listening. Clara set the tray on the stage edge and lifted the gray pocket square. "But this does." Enzo said, "Who is this?" Dante answered without looking away from Clara. "The woman who found the silver needle in my coat." The room changed again. It did not gasp all at once. The reaction moved table by table, like spilled ink. Silver needle. Coat. Memorial. Enzo. Father's cut. The words began connecting in minds that had come prepared for tribute and gossip, not evidence. Enzo laughed once. "Dante, surely you are not letting laundry staff interrupt your father's night." Clara turned toward him. Someone already interrupted it when they cut a message from an old lining and hid it in his son's collar. The laughter died. Dante stepped down from the stage and stood beside her. Not in front. Beside. That mattered. "Show them," he said. Clara removed the sealed glassine envelope from her apron pocket. Inside, the silver needle caught the ballroom light. Guests leaned forward. She placed the envelope on the napkin tray, then unfolded the gray pocket square. This was handed to Mr. Bellandi by Marco Lisi, allegedly from Mr. Enzo Vale. Marco backed one step. Enzo said, "It is a pocket square." "It is a carrier," Clara said. Something rectangular was pressed inside it and removed before it reached him. The hem contains private wardrobe thread, the same green-black thread used to hide the message strip in the coat. Absurd. "Maybe," Clara said. "But absurd things leave marks too." Dante's voice was low. "Where is the message strip?" Clara looked at him. He knew where it was. He was giving the room the question. "Still inside the coat," she said. Enzo's expression flickered. "Would you like me to open it?" Clara asked. The room held its breath. Dante looked at Enzo. "Would you?" Enzo's smile returned, thinner. If you enjoy being dressed by staff in front of guests, cousin, that is your choice. The insult landed where he meant it to land. On Clara. On the basement. On the hands that had saved him. Dante took one step toward Enzo. Clara caught his sleeve. Not hard. Just 2 fingers on the black wool. The nearest bodyguard moved. Dante did not. He looked down at her fingers, then at her face. Clara said softly, if you punish before you understand the coat, you will never know who touched it last. His own lesson returned to him. In her voice. Dante breathed once through his nose. Then he stepped back. The room saw. So did Enzo. For the first time, he looked afraid. Clara released Dante's sleeve and turned to the bodyguard. Bring Marco's left glove. Marco said, I do not wear gloves. Clara looked at his hands. No. You wear tailor's wax. He curled his fingers too late. She pointed to the side of his left thumb. Green-black thread sticks to wax. There is thread on your thumb. Marco looked at Enzo. There. The room saw that too. Enzo's face went flat. Idiot. It was not confession. It was enough. Dante said, Marco. Marco swallowed. He said it was a family correction. Not harm. Just words. He said you would understand after the room saw it. Enzo snapped, shut up. No, Dante said. Let him speak. Clara felt the sentence move through her like warmth. Let him speak. He was learning. Marco broke quickly after that. Not because Dante threatened him. Because Clara had made the evidence too visible for lies to hide behind loyalty. The message strip had been cut from one of Dante's father's old linings. Enzo had ordered Marco to sew it into the coat, claiming Dante had forgotten his place in the family. The silver needle was meant to cut the threads when the collar hook fastened under pressure. The pocket square had carried a second strip in case the first failed. Where is the second strip? Dante asked. Marco pointed to Enzo's jacket. Enzo reached for his inner pocket. The bodyguards moved. This time Clara did not stop them, because they did not move like fury. They moved like procedure. One took Enzo's wrist. The other removed the folded white strip from his pocket. Dante did not look at it immediately. He looked at Clara. Should I read it? The room did not understand why he asked her. Clara did. He was not asking permission. He was asking whether the fabric needed to speak. No, she said. Enzo laughed breathlessly. Afraid? Clara turned to him. No. Bored. Nina would have loved that. You already wrote the first insult, Clara said. A second version will not make you cleverer. Someone at the back coughed into a laugh. Dante's mouth did not move, but his eyes warmed. He took the second strip from his bodyguard, folded it once without reading, and placed it on the tray beside the silver needle. My father, he said to the room, taught me that a man who cannot enter a room without humiliating someone else has mistaken cruelty for inheritance. Enzo went pale. Dante continued, tonight, I nearly made that same mistake. The room became very quiet. His gaze moved briefly to Clara. A woman from this hotel's garment room stopped me from wearing a lie. Then she stopped me from becoming useful to my anger. Clara's throat tightened. She hated public praise. She hated needing it more. Dante turned back to the guests. The dinner will continue. My cousin will not. Enzo was escorted out without shouting, which somehow made it worse for him. Marco followed, shaking. Clara picked up the napkin tray with the silver needle and folded strips. Dante spoke quietly beside her. Do not leave yet. I have evidence to seal. After. After what? After I say the part that matters. She looked at him. He stepped back onto the stage without touching the collar. Act 7, the coat hung up. Dante did not speak about revenge. That surprised the room. It surprised Clara more. He spoke about his father, but not as a monument. He spoke about a man who had worn armor too often and called it dignity. He spoke about Mafia Bellandi choosing his coats because she knew softness had to be built into garments for men who forgot they had bodies. He spoke about inheritance as something a man had to repair, not simply wear. Clara stood beside the service arch with the evidence tray in her hands and listened. The black coat held. Not because it was perfect. Because she had repaired the damaged part and Dante had followed instructions. That was not a small thing. Powerful men liked instructions when they gave them. They treated receiving them as humiliation. Dante had received hers in a basement, a corridor, and a ballroom full of people who would repeat the story before dessert. He had not made it smaller. He had not made her smaller. When the speech ended, the applause was cautious at first, then real. Not warm exactly. This was still a Bellandi room. Warmth came dressed in restraint. But the sound had weight. Dante left the stage and came to Clara. Now, she said, I need to seal the evidence. I will walk with you. That is unnecessary. I know. Then why? Because the woman carrying the proof should not walk through a room of offended men alone. Clara looked at him. That sounds like protection. It is. I did not ask for it. No, he said. You earned the right to refuse it. She should have refused on principle. Instead, she adjusted her grip on the tray. Walk beside me. Not in front. Of course. They crossed the ballroom side by side. Guests moved out of their way, but not as they moved for Dante. They moved because Clara carried the silver needle on white cloth, and suddenly the basement had entered the history of the room. At the service corridor, Nina waited with Mrs. Alvarez, who must have been called the moment rumors reached staff. Mrs. Alvarez took one look at Clara, one at Dante, and one at the black coat. You repaired it, she said. Yes. Good stitches? Very. Modest as always. Clara felt herself smile despite exhaustion. Nina stared at the tray. You did it. We did it, Clara said. Nina shook her head. I only wrote times. Times matter. Dante said, they did. Nina looked as if the Mafia Boss had just handed her the moon and asked her to initial receipt. Mrs. Alvarez took the evidence tray. I will seal this. Clara hesitated. Go, Mrs. Alvarez said. Where? Wherever the man in the repaired coat thinks he is taking you to apologize. Clara's eyes widened. Mrs. Alvarez. Do not Mrs. Alvarez me. You worked through dinner. Dante looked at Clara. Have you eaten? That is not relevant. It is becoming very relevant. Do not make feeding me your apology. What would be better? Hanging up your own coat. The answer came before she could stop it. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Dante's eyes warmed in a way that made the corridor feel too narrow. Where? Garment room. Now? If you want to know whether you learned anything. Mrs. Alvarez made a soft sound that might have been approval or prayer. Dante removed the black coat in the service corridor. Not carelessly. Not by shrugging it off into a bodyguard's hands. He unfastened the inner hook. Slid one shoulder free. Then the other. Supported the collar the way Clara had shown him. Held the repaired seam steady. Clara watched. So did half the staff. He carried it downstairs himself. The garment room was quieter now. Machines had been turned down. The emergency had pulled the shift into a strange after-hours stillness. The inspection table was clear except for one wooden hanger and the empty garment cover. Dante stood before the rack with the coat in his hands. Clara did not help him. Collar first, she said. He lifted the hanger into the shoulders. Support the weight. He did. Do not pull the lining. He stopped and adjusted. Better. He hung the coat on the rack. It was not perfect. The left shoulder sat a little high. Clara reached out automatically, then stopped. Dante saw. Tell me. Left shoulder is proud. He adjusted it. Now? Better. Good. She studied it. Good. The word landed between them with more force than applause. Dante looked at the coat, then at her. I have had men dress me for 20 years. That sounds exhausting for them. And for me, perhaps. Perhaps. I am learning to avoid pretending certainty. She did not smile, but it was close. He reached into his inner jacket pocket and removed a small envelope. Clara's posture changed immediately. Dante noticed and held it flat on his palm, not toward her. Not money, he said. Men say that before giving money. A written apology. She blinked. For what? For nearly turning the basement into a locked room before asking what the coat meant. Clara stared at the envelope. You already listened. After you stopped me. That is how learning works. It is not enough. The quiet in the room changed. Dante set the envelope on the inspection table and stepped back. No pressure. No hand extended. No jewelry. No velvet box nonsense. Paper. Clara opened it. His handwriting was black and clean. Ms. Voss. I was ready to punish the room before I understood the coat. You stopped me. You protected my name, my father's memory, and the staff I would have frightened into silence. I apologize for needing to be taught what you already knew. Dante Bellandi. Clara read it twice. Then a third time, because the first two were for accuracy and the third was for the part of her that had spent years being called difficult by men who depended on her difficulty. This is formal, she said. Yes. Very formal. I was told written apologies matter. By whom? A hotel maid in another room. Clara looked up. There was a story there. Not hers. Not tonight. Thank you, she said. Accepted? Filed. His mouth almost moved. That is not the same. It is safer. For whom? Both of us. He accepted that without argument. Which made it harder to keep distance. Act 8, Rosemary Bread at midnight. Dante did not ask Clara to dinner that night. That was the first reason she considered saying yes when he asked later. Instead, he asked if the staff kitchen still had food. Clara said the staff kitchen always had food if people in suits had not found it first. He followed her there without bodyguards at the table, though one remained by the far door because reality did not vanish simply because manners arrived. Clara accepted that. She had not asked Dante to become a harmless man. Harmless men did not need to learn restraint under pressure. The staff kitchen smelled of coffee, stainless steel, reheated soup, and rosemary bread left over from dinner service. Nina sat at the end of the table with a bowl of soup and looked terrified when Dante entered. Sit, Clara told him. Dante looked at the metal chair. Here? If it offends you, you can stand. He sat. Nina looked at Clara as if witnessing folklore. Clara cut a heel from the rosemary loaf and set it on a plate. Eat. Dante lifted an eyebrow. Is this another test? Everything is a test if you are dramatic. Nina choked on soup. Dante picked up the bread. He did not eat immediately. What? Clara asked. You told me earlier not to make feeding you my apology. This is me feeding you. Why? You wore the coat without touching the collar. That earns bread? In this kitchen, yes. He took a bite. The moment was small. No aplausos. No chandelier. No family watching for weakness. Just a man in a black suit at a staff table eating rosemary bread because a laundry girl told him he had earned it. Clara preferred it to the ballroom. My mother used to choose my father's coats, Dante said after a while. Nina froze, then began eating with intense concentration. Clara poured coffee into 3 mismatched mugs. You said. I never understood why he let her. He was particular about everything else. Maybe because she saw the person under the armor. Dante held the bread in both hands, looking at it as if it might answer. And you? I see the armor. Only that? Clara slid a mug toward him. I also see whether it fits. His eyes lifted to hers. There it was again. The attention. The warmth under danger. The sense that if she leaned too far forward, her life would change shape before she had time to mark the seam. She took her own mug and sat across from him, not beside him. Dante noticed. Good. Are you afraid of me? He asked. Yes. Nina dropped her spoon. Clara glanced at her. Pick that up. Nina picked it up. Dante did not look offended. But you sat down. Fear is not always a stop sign. Sometimes it is a label. What does mine say? Handle carefully. Do not iron. For one stunned second, Nina stared. Then she laughed. Not a small laugh. A real one that bounced off the stainless steel cabinets and made Clara laugh too, because she had not expected the joke to land like that. Dante watched them both, and the faint smile that crossed his face was different from the ballroom smiles. Less blade. More human. Noted, he said. Nina excused herself 5 minutes later with the transparent subtlety of a girl who wanted to tell everyone downstairs that Dante Bellandi had been told not to iron himself. Clara and Dante remained at the staff table. The bread heel sat between them, half-eaten. I owe you more than an apology, he said. Do not say money. I was going to say work. Her eyes narrowed. Careful. Not employment. Then what? The Staff Scholarship Foundation needs someone who understands garment rooms, kitchens, laundry, housekeeping, and the places guests do not see. Someone who knows which rules punish tired people instead of careless ones. Clara looked at him for a long moment. You want me on a committee? I want you to help design what the committee is allowed to miss. That sentence almost makes sense. I can improve it. Do. He leaned back. I want your eyes on the rules before my money makes them permanent. That was better. Too good, maybe. And if I say no? Then I ask Mrs. Alvarez for someone else. Good. But I would prefer you. Clara's fingers tightened around her coffee mug. Because I found the needle? Because you stopped me after. The room seemed to quiet around that. Not the machines now. Not the hotel. The part inside Clara that had been braced all night. Stopping you should not be a job requirement, she said. No. It sounds exhausting. I imagine it is. You imagine correctly. Then dinner, he said. She blinked. What? Not tonight. Not as payment. Not private if you do not want it. No guards at the table. No coat for you to inspect unless you request one. You are asking badly. I know. Try again. Dante put the bread down. He did not reach across the table. He did not lower his voice into seduction. He sat in the staff kitchen, under fluorescent lights, with a repaired coat hanging 2 floors below and a written apology in Clara's apron pocket. Clara Voss, he said, would you have dinner with me because I would like to know the woman who saw the silver needle before everyone else saw a coat? The words were too formal. Too careful. Too much like a man building a bridge with both hands visible. Clara looked at him. One dinner. One dinner. Public table. Yes. No buying the restaurant. I will resist. No. I will not buy the restaurant. No bringing me a new coat as some metaphor. That is unfortunate. I had 3 metaphors ready. She laughed before she could stop herself. His face changed when she did. Not dramatically. Enough. One dinner, she said again. After your next day off. I do not have one. Dante's eyes sharpened. Do not fix that tonight, she said. He stopped. Actually stopped. She saw the effort. The instinct to call payroll, alter schedules, solve with authority. He held it back because she had told him to. That, more than the speech, more than the apology, more than the coat, made her say the next sentence. Ask me tomorrow. Why tomorrow? Because tonight you are grateful, angry, and wearing too much family history. Tomorrow you can decide whether you still want dinner when no one is watching you learn. Dante nodded slowly. Tomorrow. They finished the bread in quiet. At the service elevator, he put the repaired black coat back on. Clara watched him do it himself. He supported the collar, smoothed the shoulder, and did not touch the repaired seam after it settled. Good, she said. He looked at her. There was that word again. This time it felt less like approval of a coat and more like a door left unlocked. Good night, Ms. Voss. Good night, Mr. Bellandi. He turned to leave, then paused. Dante, he said. She considered refusing him the familiarity because it would be safer. Then she thought of the silver needle, the apology letter, the bread heel, and the way he had stopped himself from fixing her schedule. Good night, Dante. He left with the smallest smile she had seen from him. Clara went back to the garment room and found the coat's empty hanger waiting on the rack. She touched the wooden curve, then pulled her hand away. In her apron pocket, the written apology rested beside her own needle case. For once, the important thing in her pocket had been placed there by choice. The next morning, when she arrived for shift, there was no diamond on her station. No envelope of cash. No dramatic bouquet. No new title printed on a badge she had not accepted. There was only Dante's black coat hanging properly on the rack, already brushed, already empty, with a small note pinned to the hanger. No silver needle. No hidden message. No command. Just 6 words in careful black handwriting. I waited until tomorrow. Dinner? Clara stood under the garment room lights and read it twice. Nina leaned around a stack of folded shirts. Are you going to say yes? Clara looked at the coat. The left shoulder was still a little proud. She adjusted it. Then she took the note, folded it once, and tucked it into her apron pocket beside the apology. Maybe, she said. Nina groaned. That is cruel. No, Clara said, turning on the first press of the morning. That is tailoring. And upstairs, somewhere above the steam, the most dangerous man in the hotel waited for an answer he had finally learned not to force.